In here, it's only hours left before the national shutdown by the economic freedom fighters, and government says it's ready to deal with any lawlessness and violence. Over 3,400 soldiers have been deployed to help the police maintain law and order for the next month. But with multiple resources being deployed for one protest, questions are being raised on government's ability to fight the country's daily crime. We are joined by Criminologist Professor Kholofelo Rakubu, who joins us here in studio to unpack these issues. Thank you so much for your time, Prof. We do appreciate it. I think that's the big question in my introduction, that we are seeing this massive shutdown that's being planned for tomorrow.
Yes.
And we've just heard President Cyril Ramaphosa announcing that over 3,400 soldiers are going to be deployed for the next month. Many are asking, why are we waiting for one protest to do this?
Thank you for having me, and good evening to the viewers. It's a big question because remember, not long ago, the crime statistics reflected that crime has heightened tremendously in South Africa. This is the kind of response we were waiting for, but it took a political organization to come up with, to force the government to respond in this manner. Because now we're analyzing this way. Why is it that there are multiple resources available for 1 month, of which South Africa is seeking those resources on a daily basis? That is why mostly academics would say that is because there's lack of political will. Today, because it's a politically linked organization, we see effective and efficient response, and therefore resources are available. 3,400 soldiers. We needed those last month in Westbury. There were not many. We needed some of the resources. You can look into the financial muscles put into this. You can look into the attention. Does that not correlate to level of criminality? Because the very same response, we want it on a daily basis with regard to GBV, with regard to gun violence and all other crimes that has reflected we having in South Africa.
Certainly, I think it is rather alarming that all of a sudden we are seeing the deployment of soldiers for the next month or so. But do you think that this is probably sparked by perhaps internal information that the government is receiving? And I ask this in the context of the question that we do not want to repeat of what happened in July 2021, where we saw over 300 people lose their lives. Our economy was brought to a complete standstill. It was pandemonium in this country. Do you think that the decision by the president to deploy these soldiers for the next month could be linked to certain internal information of what could possibly happen come tomorrow and possibly for the next couple of weeks?
I think the president understands the status quo. South Africa is naturally violent, and South Africans are very, very frustrated with the level of criminality, with electricity issue, the blackouts, and poor service delivery. So they understand that this is not only going to be a EFF's march or protest. South Africans have been looking forward to this, and with their analysis, they understand many can come on board. And with the June protest, the 2021 June protest, South Africa now has an idea what protest, the new shape. Remember, we used to the apartheid shape. The new shape now, we can loot anywhere. And with this, the relation taps into experience, because 2021 we were saying South Africa is not so smart, it wasn't ready for the protest. So today they are trying to be a step ahead, but they do understand anything can go tomorrow because of what? Status and aggression, status frustration. South Africans are very frustrated.
Do you think that we've reached boiling point for the president to deploy 3,400 soldiers? Because if you look at the response, the speed of the response, we were told last week, Thursday, if I'm not mistaken, by the SANDF minister that the military will be on standby. And then a couple of days later, we are told, actually, we're deploying over 3,000 soldiers. The question is, you know, why don't we have this response for GBV? We've been told that this is another pandemic in our country.
Yes.
Our murder rates, our rape rates. Why is there no response to that, which is obvious if we just look at the crime stats, but there's a response when there's a planned shutdown for one day?
That is because when there are GBV questions and gun violence and so forth, South Africans, we're too relaxed. We don't take any action. We take what they tell us what to do and we agree. But now, the status quo has created loophole for other political parties to see an opportunity. That is why now the president is reacting the way he is. The deployment, going forward, they cannot tell South Africans that they don't have financial muscles to deal with GBV, to deal with gangsterism, to deploy 100 police officers when 3,000 is needed. So this is a precedent and they must go forward with it. With this response, necessity for deployment, it should be a long term. You cannot come in and say we don't have budget for to deal with gangsterism and gun violence. When you have budget to police people that will be demonstrating, yes, we take into consideration our culture of violence, but the very same energy, please stick to it, plan around it, because you are showing South Africans that you are capable. So from now on, you cannot tell us you are giving us 100 police officers when you can pay attention to a political party and give them 1,000. So this is all a political game because crime in South Africa is also political. Look at the magnitude and the speed in which they are responding. And this response, we've been waiting for it since we had approximately 100 women are murdered every day. But there hasn't been this much speed in response. With the Westbury issue, there hasn't been this much speed. We were told committees or ministers going to meet so and so, and they're going to come back and reflect or tell us what is the plan. Now today, a political party is planning something else because there's political will to maintain stability in South Africa and to stay on power. Now you tell us of 3,000 soldiers. Do the same with crime. Do the same with GBV. Do the same with gun violence.
You know, you speak about Westbury, but we must also remember areas like Khayelitsha, Langa, Philippi, those areas where you're seeing innocent people losing their lives because of gang violence. In the presidency's statement about the deployment of 3,400 soldiers, it says it's going to cost 166 million rand. So I hear you saying that we must keep this energy up, and government has shown its capability of responding to possible violence. But 166 million rand, are we going to be able to sustain that moving forward?
Now, are we saying to criminals out there, you can continue with gun violence and GBV because we don't have funds? So as a country, we must be on par with level of criminality. I hear the numbers, but South Africa should adjust as per the crime level. Yes, it's costly. Just like COVID, it was costly, but we responded to save lives. Can't we look at this very same pandemic, the very same way we dealt with other pandemics? That's my question.
Yes, I hear you, Prof. Just last question, because we've run out of time. I want to ask you if you think deploying soldiers is the right response, because we have previously seen, even during hard lockdown, where oftentimes the military are not trained to deal with civilians, and we've seen serious violence being practiced. Do you think soldiers are the right kind of response? You know, as a South African and as a victim, I don't want to be scared walking around, even though I am scared because of the crime in this country, but also when I see the army, I panic and I think, what's actually going on here? So is the army the right response?
That is a frustrated response, because you start at the end. Research has proven that we do have socio-political issues that perpetuate level of criminality in South Africa. Then you go far end to respond. You have neglected multiple community issues that perpetuate level of criminality. The presence of soldiers perpetuate level of fear. We don't feel safe in their presence. And how can you bring people that are not trained to deal with such? Obviously, we're going to hear of unnecessary violence, bullying, and so forth. So we're going to have secondary victimization and re-victimization, because innocent people are going to be victimized just because the soldiers are not at that level to deal with societal issues. So we're going to be reporting more and more on violence. So South Africa should go and look into that integrated approach and take all factors that have been identified to heighten level of criminality in South Africa into consideration. The financial muscle is needed there, not in this way. Today, because we're dealing with political crisis, they're going to tap into what was utilized in 1994 to frustrate communities, to act as if your all is in order, to command, and that is not necessary today. People have right to protest. People have right to reflect on their frustration, and the president should take into consideration that South Africans are angry and frustrated. The responses that have been provided have not been sufficient. So people can demonstrate against what is happening. But deployment, it's another crisis. Utilize those money for other necessary mechanisms that are known to be very efficient.
In your last 30 seconds, what do you think tomorrow is going to look like?
Tomorrow we're going to have opportunist criminals. Tomorrow you're going to have more victimization, frustration, opportunity here and there. Not everybody who will be protesting will be from the EFF. We might even have other political parties on board to destroy, to tarnish. This is all a political game. What is going to happen tomorrow, it will end with EFF. However, it might not even be EFF members. So this is just going to be chaos, but demonstrations, yes, frustration, yes, but we're not safe tomorrow.
Okay, thank you so much for your insights. We do appreciate it. That is Criminologist Professor Kholofelo Rakubu.